Hi everyone. Here is my Module 15 presenting to peers presentation on my action research project. A little bit about me. I teach 4th grade at Bucher Elementary, which is in the Manheim Township School District. I've been teaching for 6 years, 5 years with Township. In the next few weeks, I hope to finish up my master's in assessment, curriculum, and teaching with the STEM endorsement. The purpose of my action research project was to look at student achievement through collaboration. I wanted to see how much of an effect collaboration had on student achievement levels and having students retain information. I personally think that student-to-student learning is so valuable as long as they're able to have those deep conversations and kind of bounce ideas off of one another. I also think just in life, students need to learn how to work with other students and just other people to solve problems. So I wanted to kind of look and see if there was a correlation between the collaboration that they had and their achievement levels. So my research question was, what is the effect of small group collaboration on students' understanding of scientific concepts, both understanding the vocabulary and the processes following the Pennsylvania state standards for science? So originally, when I was thinking about my research question, some other questions that I hoped to answer was, how can small group collaboration build student-to-student confidence in group discussions? So I have a lot of shy students this year who don't like to participate in a whole group, and I kind of wanted to see how well they work together during each of their 3 science investigations to see if they could kind of come out of their shell a little bit. I also wanted to look at student chosen groups versus student assigned groups. I'm normally one that leans towards assigning groups to or assigning students to different groups rather than allowing students to choose their groups, just because it can get a little bit chaotic and sometimes they don't choose the best partner for them, and then they're off task or not following directions, and then that hinders their understanding of what they're doing. So my related literature, the 5 pieces that I looked at, 1 focused on student perspectives, or 2 focused on student perspectives of group work. Another focused on the collaboration and its impact on a classroom community or environment. And then 2 others looked at achievement levels for students who had worked in collaborative groups through STEM and engineering design practice investigations. So the first study that looked at student perspectives found that student attitudes towards group work kind of depended on the situation. They found that they had both positive and negative feelings on collaboration. A second study focused on mixed grouping, where they mixed higher level students with lower level students, and both sets of students liked that method. The lower level students, they preferred mixed ability groupings, and then the higher attaining students, they thought that it gave everyone an equal opportunity for learning. It also allowed them to help lower achieving students, which they enjoyed. A third study focused on collaboration that builds on diversity. So the purpose of that study was to look at how educators kind of build a classroom community with refugees or newly arrived students through cooperative learning. So it kind of focused on engagement and relationships that are built within the classroom. And then the last 2 pieces of literature focused on student collaboration during STEM and engineering design activities. Both concluded that students who worked collaboratively, they did have their own independent ideas, but they were able to work collaboratively in a group as well. For my design, students were introduced to 3 different investigations for our energy unit. The investigations took anywhere from a week to a week and a half to complete. So they were given smaller daily investigations for each of the different topics. So there was energy and electricity, energy transfer, and magnetism. Students worked in self-selected groups for 2 out of the 3 investigations. I started with assigning them 2 groups, and then for the last 2 allowed them to choose, and then 2 students chose to work alone. Through each investigation, I took field notes to look at how well students planned their investigation, if they asked questions, if they were able to explain the reasoning behind the concept, and how well they were able to communicate their answers. And then after each investigation, they had exit tickets, homework, and then also a quiz. So again, my data collection techniques, there were field notes, exit tickets, and then quizzes for each investigation. Here's just a snapshot of one of the exit tickets for energy. So there were 3 different questions with multiple answers for them, or for each. And then I kind of just broke it down by question and then looked at their overall scores. I also looked to see if there were any themes with my collaborative groups and my independent workers. So I noticed for this one that my students who were working independently missed or they didn't have a full understanding of what was needed to light a bulb. They also, both collaborative students and my students who were working independently, struggled with finding how energy flows through the different through the different pictures that they were supposed to look at. So as you can see for this exit ticket, the independent workers definitely scored lower than the students who were working collaboratively. That was kind of my findings across the board. I broke down each of my investigation quizzes by question and then overall score, and then also looked at different questions that might need to go back and be retaught. So this is just another snapshot of one of the investigations. As you can see again, the students who worked collaboratively scored much higher than the ones that were working independently for their average anyways. So some more of my findings, these were just 2 themes that I had written about in my action research project. So assigned groups versus student chosen groups versus individual. I found that student assigned groups did not have much engagement. They definitely worked or were more engaged when they were able to work with their friends. Students who chose to work independently, they didn't have enough support to be able to draw those conclusions and explain why scientific practices were happening. And then students who were able to pick their group members did work better collaboratively. So that goes back to that engagement as well. And then student understanding while working with a group versus independently. So out of the 3 formative assessments that were given, students who worked with group members throughout each activity scored anywhere from 5% to 9% higher on each assessment. And then students who worked individually, they scored lower on the critical thinking questions, where they would have needed to have a solid understanding of the explanation from the activity. So here's just another snapshot of one of those quizzes that I had given. So for questions 4, 5, and 6, students were given data, and for question number 4, they needed to determine what scientific question was being asked. For question number 5, they needed to see how it was being measured, and then question number 6 was for drawing a conclusion as to what their findings were at the end. So they definitely struggled there. More findings, students that worked independently only scored higher than 4 peers for their magnetism assessment, 3 peers on their energy assessment, and then 1 peer on their electricity assessment. So the students who worked collaboratively definitely scored better on their quizzes. In conclusion, some things that I learned about the project, student choice, I definitely feel that that has benefited student learning during this project, as long as they're well managed and that expectations are set up and that they're clear. I noticed that if I have students that want to work independently, that they need to have more of a scaffolded approach and a way to be able to explain their thinking and dive a little bit deeper. And there were areas of our energy unit that many students in both collaborative groups and independent learning struggled with. So this is something that definitely needs to be taught explicitly. For me personally, as a teacher, I think, or I learned that students who are working independently need some way to think critically again. That was kind of not eye-opening to me, but something that I definitely want to focus on next year. And then overall general, I need to analyze data a bit closer to find themes on quizzes and tests. I really enjoyed doing that and learning how to do that. I haven't taken the time before to analyze the data and things like that. So I definitely want to continue to do that as I continue teaching. How could I inform different members at my school? It could help other teachers feel more comfortable having collaborative learning opportunities for students, and then just allow for teachers to learn how to analyze and interpret data. That I think is really important. So I learned a lot about just action research during this project, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thanks.